So we would like to make a recommendation to the council to make Ross Plaza Park a no pet park. The purpose of this is to deter and hopefully stop the park from being used as a local pet restroom stop. We have found that there are many children that go out there and play. We have the Ross Memorial out there in May, and a lot of times we find that there is doggy fecal matter and other excrements left in the park, which causes an unpleasant, safe environment for children, unpleasant, safe environment for our shoes, and it also smells disgusting. So we would like to take action as an agency and make this recommendation to you. Fecal matter degrades the sod and the grass in the park as well as urine. It stains the marble and it degrades the quality of the park.
So Ross, the background on this issue, Ross Plaza in our Parks Master Plan is a 0.8 acre special use site serving our city center. It also serves as the War Memorial. It has extensive landscaping, a pergola to serve as a bandstand so that the lawn would be a place for people to be sitting on the ground. In the 2014 Parks Master Plan, the goal was set at that time to consider banning all pets from this special use park. And no pet policy was further considered by City Council at a special meeting on August 19, 2014.
All right. The special City Council workshop for August 19, 2014 discussed proposed changes for Ross Plaza, including the agency recommending, that's us, adoption of a no pets policy. A majority of the council supported designating the park as a no pets allowed to include signage, which would be at eye level, excuse me, to enforce the pet ban. Continued work on the fencing element also was encouraged. There was some opposition to the fencing because it represented unfriendliness to an area located in the middle of the city. Just a quick comment, I don't remember all the comments, but there was some opposition. I don't think it was real bad opposition. It was just designing of the fencing and so forth. And I believe that we could mitigate that with I've looked at the park several times. I know you folks have too. There's lots of vegetation around the park, and a lot of that vegetation is very dense, and there's nobody going to be walking through it. So it's not like the fencing is going to be totally around the whole park like it's a compound. So I encourage you all to just drive around the park and look. So that's my comment on that part. Sorry. And the park is yet to be officially designated a no pets allowed park. Meanwhile, the off-leash area has been built, providing a designated dog park within 20 minutes 20-minute walk. So everybody knows that we have a dog park in Powderworks Park. Many citizens are frustrated with the abuse of the park is receiving, while Public Works is putting considerable man hours into park cleanup, especially before special events like the Memorial Day ceremony. Parks and Recreation revisited the issue at March 5, 2018 meeting and discussed the need for changes to current policy, which still allows pets in the park.
With this park being designated as a war memorial, Ross Plaza is the center of DuPont Station. It's surrounded by business, many multi-family apartments, and 3 hotels. Ross Plaza was never meant to be a dog waste station. It was meant to recognize the service members and their sacrifices, and we should not disrespect them by allowing this to continue. The new off-leash area at Powderworks Park is 1.0 miles away and about a 19-minute walk away, where these residents can take their dogs for this purpose.
And if you look at the picture down in the bottom right, that picture is a picture of a green lawn area that Trax provides its residents. So they do have a green area provided by the apartment complex.
I'll talk about the poo. Dog waste is an environmental pollutant. In 1991, it was labeled a non-point source pollutant by the Environmental Protection Agency, placing it in the same category as herbicides and insecticides, oil, grease, and toxic chemicals, and acid drainage from abandoned mines. In the real world, according to several studies referenced in the USA Today article, an estimated 40% of Americans don't pick up their dog's feces. On the midday survey of Ross Plaza on March 12, 2018, I documented no less than 44 piles of poo left in the park. Most were on the side near the tracks and in the center of the slope facing the tracks entry and the memorial itself.
So some of those things you see there are not leaves, they're poop piles. So assumptions that might be included is that the city will provide signage at all entries to the park and post it as a no pets allowed policy for the core of the park, and that in time, a barrier, especially on this side, which is on Ross Loop towards the Trax apartment, and across the way towards the liquor and cigar store and the Community First Credit Union building, those are the open areas. A small fence or additional planting would provide a barrier to direct people to the entries. That most pets owner will read and abide by the no pet policy, and that we would allow service animals per Washington state laws. Meanwhile, the city has some legal leverage to enforce keeping this a clean park. So we considered several courses of action. Leave it as it is, it's not working. Waste is contaminating, degrading the lawn. It poses a health problem and a nuisance to the park for all users. Many of our veterans find it disrespectful that this is happening right in front of the memorial. A course of action would be doing those planting strips instead of a fence to direct people toward the posted entries. It's not necessarily essential, but it would certainly help. And it would be for city council to decide the details of how people would be directed to the entries. Narrow planting strips of the nature that you saw already around the corners of the park could be an acceptable barrier, and they would not greatly detract from the friendliness of the park or pose a high cost for the city to implement.
I can read that without my glasses. All right, after considerable discussion, the park agency voted to recommend to the city council that Ross Plaza be posted no pets allowed at all entries as soon as practical, and take up the discussions as to implementation of some kind of barrier fencing. And that no pets allowed, of course, does not include service pets, because that's the law, we understand that. And just my final comment on this. This is all designed, my personal opinion, this is designed to redirect the traffic that just wants to wander in and use it to the points of entry that has it posted. So we're kind of trying to regulate where people kind of enter a little bit. It's not really restrictive. So at least they have a chance to go where our little dog things are and post it, that this is a park and it needs to be enforced at that point. So it kind of redirects people a little bit. If you look at the park, there's not a lot of open egress except for the main side on Wilmington and on the Ross Loop side towards the credit union is pretty wide open. There's a lot of vegetation around the other end. So I don't think it's that difficult. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of regulates people. Oh, I need to go around and read a sign. You help people out. That's my position.
And our end goal is not to implement this immediately. This is not something we expect to be done lickety-split. But our end goal is to have the park cleaned up, the grass sanitized, the memorials cleaned before the Ross Memorial presentation that we have scheduled with Parks Rec and Agency. So we want to make sure the park is ready for visitors and is clean and smells nice and is friendly.
Questions?
City Council, any questions?
Yeah, and Council, this is a discussion item for later, so I would offer you could ask the Parks Agency leadership questions now, but your discussion, we can have that during the discussion items. Councilmember Gassick.
I have two questions because I know we discussed this at the last meeting. First, has Trax been notified that this is a discussion item for council?
Actually, I did talk to Trax on yesterday in midday about this, and they said they would support it being a no-pet park. They have challenged just having people within their hallways and their garages and stuff responding to their responsible pet owner policy. They are not against us making our park a no-pets park and the city enforcing their policy. They do have, as I pointed out in that picture, a green spot on their property that is provided for their residents.
Second, do we know if the COA is willing to partake in the funding of the fence? Has that been discussed with them yet?
This action today that we're recommending is not fencing of the park. This action we're recommending is making it a no pets policy park and leaving that to city council to determine whether additional vegetation along the edge in the same manner as what's already there is an appropriate barrier, or fencing, and those costs would have to be determined on your discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you all taking this on. We've needed this for a while. Next are discussion items. We only have one discussion item, as the second item was moved into unfinished business. That is the Park and Recreation recommendation for Ross Plaza. I would ask, Renee, are you still available here? Okay, so if the council has questions in their discussion, I would just like to have a member of the park agency available to answer those. Is there a problem with that, city administrator?
No,
So just stand by.
As she walks up, I just add, we're still kicking around which ordinance to do this in. Currently, our laws say that pets can be in parks, so most likely, we're going to fix this by amending the ordinance and calling out Ross Plaza, if that is your desire. So I'm just telling you procedurally how this is going to work. We have to change the ordinance. Can't just throw the signs
I
up.
believe previously we had changed it to a memorial park to give us freedom to do that.
I actually looked through the record, and you guys discussed it, and it seemed like you agreed, but there was never a vote on the actual name change. So if
Okay.
that also is on the docket, let us know. We'll bring that forward as well.
Okay, so council, the floor is yours. Whatever action you want myself and the staff to take, we'll prepare that for whatever activity. Councilmember Gassick.
Thank you. As the council liaison to Parks Agency, I can tell everyone that this subject did come up a few years ago, and it was discussed, and we decided to give Trax the opportunity to rectify this issue on their own by notifying the residents of the apartment building to be more responsible about picking up after their pets, in hopes that that would resolve the issue without having to restrict people from bringing their pets into the park. That was the concern of the appearance of being unfriendly. It is a community park, and we wanted it to stay that way. Unfortunately, that did not happen, and it's continuing to be a problem. I know that they were picking up the big 30-gallon trash bag full of pet waste before events there. And the smell and the responsibility of cleaning up after other people's pets, and it takes a very long time for the grass to recover from something like that. So we would like to see at least a month without any pets in that area prior to the next function for the Memorial Day service there. I know that there's some consideration to talk about later regarding fencing and the design of the fence. I would also suggest that we revise the pet ordinance or use the pet ordinance fines, the escalating fines in that situation for violators of the no pet policy in that park. We currently have, I think it's $75, $150 to $250, is that correct, Chief Holt? Yeah, so the first offense would be $75, the second offense would be $150, and then the third offense would be $250. So that it is painful to the pocketbook, and hopefully that would take care of the issue.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Corp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think that it's a good opportunity to do all those things that we had talked about before, not only creating a no pet park, but also at the same time, if we can do the renaming to make it the Memorial Park, whatever you and the attorney need to, however you need to do that to in whichever part of the code we need to do it. I know that there's a lot of other citizens that have helped pick up around there, Gail and other people that are constantly helping. So I know that it's been an issue for a long time, and I think this is something easy and very inexpensive to do.
Councilmember Gruba?
I just had a quick question for Gus, if I may, actually. I know it's to be discussed as far as fencing, whether we're going to do shrubbery or whatever the case may be. Are there means for us to maybe completely shrub that entire park to respect all the way to the stairs and maybe improve the entrance out of the backside of that park? Do we have the capability to do that rather rapidly, I guess?
The ability to install shrubbery, that can be done. My only concern is long-term care and maintenance from it. If we truly are creating a hedge-like environment, that brings into a whole different other aspect that probably hasn't been discussed already, which is, okay, people hiding behind things. I've already had to remove one set of hedges because it was growing too high and couldn't be seen on if someone was making a right turn around Ross Plaza. So I'm a little cautious on installation of any fencing or hedges or plant material in that area. The other thing is the grass turf area is not necessarily the best soil in that. Therefore, the very reason why we kept most of the Christmas events more towards one side.
Councilmember Barnes?
Yeah, I think this is a great idea, and I fully support doing whatever updates we need to call this a no pet area, or park or whatever. My concern, though, is Chair Buck, you mentioned that Trax was having a hard time, even within their own buildings and facilities, getting people to respect pet laws and regulations, whatever they had. And I understand that citing people, having DPD cite people would be the solution. I'm concerned that we don't have necessarily enough staff to do that. So while I fully support this, I'm cognizant of the fact that Chief Holt has not a whole lot of staff and they run around town all the time. And people with pets are in and out really quick. And so we may not catch people. I hope it works. I would love to see that park very nice and clean and respectful for the memorial. We just may need to revisit it and try something else in a little bit.
Councilmember Coffey?
Yes, I have supported this, this whole idea. I really would like us to look towards the final goal of getting fencing in there, whether it's, maybe like 4-foot wrought iron fence, so, there is some visibility through it. I do have concerns about, overgrowth, shrubbery, that does cause problems like what our Public Works Director did mention. So we do need to move forward with what we can do right now, but I think ultimately we do need to put some type of barrier so it's not so easily available.
So Council, from what I get from your sense, and let me offer a two-step approach to this. First, I get the sense of the council that, yes, you support the Parks Agency proposal that we make Ross Memorial Plaza a no-pet area, and I don't see any disagreement with that. So I'll work with the city administrator and staff on how to legally craft that and where that goes, what we have to do. That's step one. That's your intent, is to remove access to anything other than service animals to that park. The second step will be some options on how to physically create an appropriate barrier that, one, respects safety, the visual effect of the park, and so we have some other work to do with that. But I think the first step we can do is take on what the change to the code would look like to cause that, and then we can work maybe with Public Works and the Tree Board and some other options on how to move forward. And then once we have that, then we'll talk about funding of this project. This might fall within the REIT category, depending on how we lay that out, but we'll see. Ted, does that work?
It absolutely does. It does. We can bring you a couple options on how to provide screening or fencing or obstruction or whatever you want to call it. And then just one last question. Go ahead and proceed with the Ross Memorial Plaza, Vice Ross Plaza. Yeah, okay. So we'll bring up those.
Is everybody okay with that? Because you really memorialize two Rosses there. You have the Ross family with the Proctor, which is originally named after, which including Ross Loop. Is Carol here? Did I get that right? And then you have Master Sergeant retired Wilburn Ross, Medal of Honor recipient, who has the stone up at the front, along with the memorialization of the residents of DuPont who perished in the global war on terrorism. So, any disagreement with working towards that end, Council? Okay, we'll do that. Thank you, and we'll talk some more on it. Thank you very much.